Hello and welcome to another Charity Toolkit video by Andy Best. Hopefully by now you've watched other videos in my channel where I demonstrate what's possible with Donorfy's web widgets. What I've been able to do by way of extending the web widgets of Donorfy is generate something called the Appeal Builder. And what it allows charities to do is generate pages on their website that are standardized instances of those widgets, so they don't have to actually use the code or style it anew every time. They have some formulaic code into a template that allows them to populate their own introductory text, their own photography, their own context to kind of explain what the appeal is about, and then also govern what goes on the payment control for that appeal, so the different amounts, the different benefit texts, and that all be mapped and logged to Donorfy for their reporting's sake. An organization like the National Brain Appeal are doing the same for their Rare Dementia Support Center. So as you can see, their equivalent of the Appeal Builder has a very different template style. It's all branded and standardized to the rest of the conventions of their website. They've not got to code anything. They just come into the back end, fill out the template form, and automatically this page will be generated with the payment control already in place. Sober House Hospice is another example that's happening live now. This appeal is running now. They've populated it with their context. Their donation control sits center page, and their form generates onto page. So the payment form that Donorfy and Stripe, this is a Stripe payment, this one, is going to need all of these fields and handle things like communication preferences, gift aid opt-in, and so on. And finally we have Brain Research UK, and this is their it's their faux Christmas appeal. This was put together for demonstration purposes, and hence why I'm making this video. So for their Christmas appeal, this is their template, which again looks very different. It will enable us to select our frequency of giving, the value we're giving, something custom there. I might make this in memory of someone, and then I will grab my donation down here, payment details, and it's the same form. But what the Appeal Builder allows all of these charities to do is to create their appeals exponentially. They don't have to have a web developer intervene or develop anything new or stylize it from fresh ever again. They can continue to add appeals onto this list, and the pages for those appeals are automatically generated, which means the charity has got so much more freedom to spin up these things. In the case of an emergency, perhaps an emergency appeal presents itself. Perhaps there's an appeal they simply want to toggle on and off every year at their own leisure, like a Christmas appeal, for example. So I'm going to walk you through what we've got on the Brain Research UK installation. This is a WordPress installation. The majority of these so far have been, but I have built the Appeal Builder for other CMS systems as well. So let's imagine I'm a fundraising representative at Brain Research UK. I will come to the appeals section of my website, backend. I will create my appeal. I appreciate that churches have got nothing to do with brain related matters, but I have a church roof JPEG on hand, and so we are going to go with that. You'll see here that I am just giving these two fields, the headings and subheadings. Please help our poorly church roof. This is why this is not my job. So who would donate to that? My heading and my subheading are in now. They're going into this bank of fields called the Appeal Donorfy block of fields. So that's sort of the setting of the context. Obviously we've got the image to add into here. I've already uploaded this church roof image, so I'm going to make use of that. the roof in question becomes the caption for that roof there. And then for this template, that's all we've got on offer for styling, identifying the context of the appeal. Some of those other templates I showed you a moment ago had a lot more imagery fields and paragraph fields, but for brevity, we're going to stick with this slimmed down example. Is the appeal active? This is the first question. Obviously, by default, this will be yes. So the moment I publish this appeal, people can start coming to it, start donating straight away. In the event that I toggle that to no and, update the page or publish the page in the first place, when a user arrives at this URL, instead of being unable to arrive at the URL, instead of arriving at a 404 can't be found style page, the page remains live. But rather than serve this bar in the middle, and all the content that is in this block here, replacing that is a more generic message to the effect, thank you very much for your interest in this appeal. It's currently not running, however, you can still donate to us. And then there'd be a button linking through to the unrestricted donation form elsewhere on the website. So that keeps donors incentivized. It means you don't lose donations, albeit that they're now not for the intended appeal, but you still collect a donor and engage with them. We're going to keep that on yes for the time being. We then move on to our amounts. So we have one-off amounts. There's a block here, 3 of those available in this template. So I would say £10, £20, £30, for example. This particular installation of the Appeal Builder isn't making use of the donation amount descriptions. These fields are sort of hangers-on from a previous installation. But you'd be free to write into here. £10 would give us 100 tiles for the roof, £20 to 200 and so on. I don't know much about church roofs, but you would give each amount a defined context. They would render on the front end as the user would click through them. If you want to make this an appeal against which a donor can pay each month, you would toggle on that box there, and that brings out the monthly equivalent of these one-off amounts up here. And most appeals, though, I imagine have a shelf life. They are for simply Christmas or for, I don't know, a marathon event or something, and so recurring payments doesn't quite make sense. So by default, that's off. But the moment that it's on, this second button arrives up in this bar here. If monthly amounts was turned off, this whole bar would be missing, but the payment context is assigned as though it's a single donation. For my church campaign, I'm going to have that off. And now this is the meaty part. This is where it all ties together with Donorfy. I need your widget ID in here. There's a bit of an explainer text there, but I'm going to give you the video walkthrough. So what is a widget ID and where do I get one from? In your instance of Donorfy, if you come across to settings, configuration, and then type web widgets up in this bar here, you'll get taken through to the web widgets settings. And what web widgets are, they're a way to create a payment context with all the necessary mappings for Donorfy associated to it. So the first thing we need to do is give our widget a description. It's its name. So I'm going to be calling this one Churches That Leak to coincide with the same appeal I've just built on my website side. It's going to be active, so we're going to leave that on. Because I'm building first my one-off amounts widget, it's going to be a payment type of Stripe. We're going to be using Stripe for our one-off payments. Were this to be a recurring widget that I was building for my part of the appeal template, that it'd be this direct debit for Go Cardless. I'm using Stripe. By clicking Stripe, my Stripe publishable key automatically populates into this box. You don't have to write this down or store this anywhere. Donorfy is going to do that for you. I will need to display in here the URL that I want to arrive at my exit page. So once my donation has been successfully captured by the system, I'm going to need a page that comes up that says thanks very much, that's been received, or it's being processed, or whatever wording you wish. You're free to build that page wherever you like in your website and just point this widget at it. Next up, we have to configure all of the mappings for the relevant containers and things in Donorfy. So they're looking a little bit squiffy at the moment here. I think Donorfy is not happy with me tabbing on and off this view, but what I'd want to choose, churches that leak. For my donation, for my product, I've selected donation. Payment via Stripe makes sense because it's a Stripe widget. I am going to keep the currency as is. The fund is on general. Bank account, I don't have any other bank accounts, so we're going to stick with that. I'm not using any departments in my installation either, so my department's going to remain blank. So these fields in the middle, the transaction settings, are, as you'd expect, how the transactions coming through are going to be attributed on the Donorfy side. So you can do your reporting against this campaign, for example, and then you will find you can isolate those donations away from your other contexts. What happens to the donor after they donate in terms of acknowledgement? There's a bank of 4 fields here. You select your email acknowledgement template. I'm just going to put blank. And my mail, my postal acknowledgement template. I'm going to choose a blank letter for that. I am not having any recurring payment instructions going through this particular widget because it is a Stripe one-off is the context, so there won't be any RPIs generated, so I'll leave those as they are. And by default, we'll find that this is turned to no. This is turned off. Send acknowledgement emails immediately. I've yet to encounter a charity where that was preferable. Every charity I've dealt with wants their donors to be informed near instantaneously by email that that donation has occurred, and so that will turn on there. If you are still using an older version of MailChimp, that's the classic MailChimp campaigns and not the newer supported journeys, you can configure a journey to onboard a user to a donor to here. But I think most charities have moved beyond the need for that. So if you did need MailChimp to be engaged now, it wouldn't be in the widget settings you do this. You'd probably have to assign a dedicated trigger to it elsewhere in Donorfy. But once you've filled out all of these fields and you're comfortable that your donation is going to go and report the way you want it to, first you must click on the Generate Widget HTML Code button. What this is going to do is it's going to give you a very, very long page of HTML markup, some actual text, to drop into your website to produce the form on the page. You're not going to need to do that because you've got the appeal building template system installed onto your WordPress website or your other CMS website. But you will still need to generate the HTML code. Once it's generated, this button pops up to copy it. So copy it to clipboard with a single click like that. Let's go back to our appeal building template where I just want the widget ID in this box here. I'm going to paste in all of that HTML. As you can see, that's all dropped in there. That's a very, very long field of all the text to produce a payment form. We don't want all of that, so I'm just going to simply click out of the box, and what remains is the ID that we care about. I'm going to publish my page now, as that was the last step, and I'm going to see what happens when I click its URL. And so this has generated a page that didn't exist prior to the start of this video. As you can see, it mirrors the standardized template of the Christmas appeal, but it carries through now the contexts that we assigned in the template. So the title and subtitle, those different amounts that I assigned, the image, the caption, and then down at the bottom here, all of the payment fields now, all of the Donorfy fields and everything else, they're all mapped to the appeal that we just created in that widget. So donations now coming through here are restricted and can be reported against, mapped against, and so on.